Well, joining me now is Republican Congressman of Florida, Greg Steube is here. Congressman, good to have you back on the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Congressman, it's interesting, this bill, the George Floyd Act, does everything possible to make sure no one ever goes into policing again. At least that's my take on it. Am I wrong?
You know, my debate on the floor on that bill, I said at the ending of my comments about how egregious it was, that if that bill were to become law and signed by the president, we won't have a police force in the United States in 10 years. If you take away their qualified immunity, and also part of that bill was taking away their protective gear and military equipment that they get in districts like mine, they can't afford. They have to get it through military surplus sales. So we're going to take away their ballistic vests. We're going to take away their protective shields. And then we're going to take away their liability protection personally, so that if anything that an officer does, even if he follows his own training and protocol, he can be personally sued. What officer in the United States is going to want to work and defend our public when he knows that his family, his house, his vehicles and everything is personally liable for every action that he takes? So I don't think we're going to have a police force in this country in 10 years if that act were to become law.
And let's remind people, it's not like cops are making all kinds of money, that it's worth the risk. They're risking their lives here as well. And certainly this is a bad deal. I'm going to play a soundbite from a congresswoman who is like the complete 180 from Greg Steube. This is Congresswoman Karen Bass, Democrat from California. Listen to the opposite of what you talk about, Greg. Listen to Karen Bass.
That police officers have to be held accountable, and qualified immunity in Section 242, which is lowering the standard to prosecute officers, which is why they're so rarely prosecuted. Those are real key components to the bill, and we have to make sure that that's there. That's why Derek Chauvin felt so cavalier about torturing George Floyd to death.
So there you go. I'm not sure he tortured him to death. I still think this was negligent, mistake, horrible. Every officer I know speaks out against it. But vilifying every officer because of it is just wrong, Congressman.
Well, and the justice system, and opposite of what she said, the example, Exhibit A of how it did work was exactly the Derek Chauvin trial. He went to trial, he was charged, and he was found guilty on those charges. So how does it not work in an instance where an officer went beyond his training and protocol and used unnecessary force to subdue a criminal? So obviously it does work because he was held accountable for his actions in a court of law. So it goes directly against what she was saying. If you do away with qualified immunity in our country, people like my brother who serves in the Manatee County Sheriff's Department, my father who's a former sheriff, they're not going to serve anymore because they care more about their family and protecting their family and then getting personally served in a lawsuit against everything that they own for doing something that was within their training and protocol. And that is what would happen if they lose qualified immunity in our country.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Congressman Greg Steube, I appreciate you laying it out for us in a way that we can understand instead of the trickery from the Democrats that we're getting. As always, good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
All right. One of the